Iran's leaders have rejected President Trump's ceasefire
Iran's
plan.
Navy is gone. Never in the history of warfare has an enemy suffered such clear and devastating large-scale losses in a matter of weeks.
They should give up.
President Trump touting the success of Operation Epic Fury, the commander-in-chief praising the U.S. military for dismantling the capabilities of the terror regime
Which they
in Iran.
have done.
The Iranian military is saying this about hidden stockpiles. That the centers you think you have targeted are insignificant, and our strategic military productions take place in locations of which you have no knowledge and will never reach.
Yeah, so Dan, thanks for having me. Look, a lot of bravado from the Iranians. I mean, I think when you're losing and getting beaten this badly, you resort to rhetoric because actions are no longer sufficient to keep you in power. I think we know where they are, and the U.S. and Israeli intelligence have eyes into everything. I mean, as we know, the Israelis have penetrated the security and intelligence apparatus of the Iranian regime for many, many years, which has allowed them to go after and take out nuclear scientists and top-level commanders. So we have eyes into everything. We hope that there isn't a covert enrichment facility, but if there is, we hope our intelligence community can find it.
Okay. The president also says that he will finish the job in Iran, and he said this about media coverage, that media coverage of the war in the U.S. has been so relentlessly negative that Iran's leaders may really believe that they are winning. So
they do believe they're winning because there are U.S. politicians that want to come out and say that we're losing.
3 of my brothers served in the military, my oldest brother in Vietnam. President Trump is treating war with Iran like a game. They're calling the war Operation Epic Fury. These are not serious people.
Oh, but she's not the only one.
If you were expecting something new, you did not get it. It was a litany of lies that he's told before about facts of the matter.
Right, so according to these people, Trump has no plan, no way to get us out of this, doesn't know what he's doing, nobody trusts him, and he's lying about everything. But look who it is that's actually lying.
Yeah, well, that certainly was the media narrative. The president was going to declare victory, he was going to pull the plug, and he was going to leave. And they got it completely wrong.
Yes.
And I think that Wall Street Journal editorial is exactly right. I mean, I think the media narrative is feeding into an Iranian delusion that they're actually winning. And that's making it less likely that they're going to agree to any diplomatic off-ramp, and more likely that over the coming weeks, President Trump is going to escalate and strike at even more of the Iranian targets to remove and destroy their war-making capabilities. So
that's exactly what the president said he was going to do last night.
Yet if during this period of time no deal is made, we have our eyes on key targets. If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously.
But you see, the media, the president's political adversaries inside this country, they want to see America lose.
In effect, the media is making it more likely that we're going to have war and less likely that we're going to have diplomatic deals.
Well,
so
they
NATO
say they don't want war.
Its nose is a little bit out of joint. But they're caught between, I guess, Iran and a hard place, right? Because they depend on this oil. The world should have an open Strait of Hormuz. What do you think about his calls to NATO to get involved here and help defend it?
They're stupid if they don't.
I think he's exactly right. Look, I mean, we've gotten incredible support from our non-NATO allies, from the Israelis, from the Emiratis, from the Saudis, and we're getting great support from our Gulf allies who want the president to continue this war and destroy the war-making capabilities of this regime. And yet NATO, with a few exceptions, has really not stood up. I think the president is saying, stand up. We don't get our energy from the Gulf. You do.
Right.
And you need to provide actual material support.
Thank you.
Ships and minesweepers and things that will actually help clear the straits.
It's their
and
oil.
Get oil and natural gas moving to your markets. So I think NATO's got to take this seriously. I worry that the president is growing so frustrated with NATO that he may actually withdraw the United States from NATO, which I think would be a catastrophic error. But he's serious.
What is NATO going to do for the U.S., though? Here we are trying to use their bases to keep the whole world safe and to help keep their economies going, and they say no. It's like these guys are compromised, and they also want to see the president fail. How can we have an agreement to keep the world safe if our own allies don't want to see us win?
Donald Trump threatening to pull out of NATO because he thinks that Europe just hasn't pulled its weight for decades. Does he have a point?
He's got a very good point. I think if I was Donald Trump, I'd probably do the same thing. What we have to think about is the fact that European countries, including the UK, maybe us less than others, but nevertheless including the UK, have been freeloading on the US in NATO for decades now.
Thank you.
And when he might expect a bit of support from NATO countries, they've basically shunned him, and they've refused to. They've actually not just not joined in this campaign against Iran, which is a threat to us all, but they've actually been uncooperative in terms of letting him use a number of different bases in Europe, including UK bases.
Yep, that's right. They've stood in the way of something that will keep them safe and ensure prosperity for generations, for their grandchildren, and they don't even care, which means NATO's either compromised or worthless at this point.
Colonel Kemp, what do you make of Sir Keir Starmer's comments today, clearly, in many people's eyes, making overtures towards Brussels, stating that the future security of Britain lies with Europe, not with Washington?
They can't defend themselves. How?
Yeah, our most important ally is the United States of America, and one of the reasons for that is because they have immense military power. Starmer can get closer to Europe as much as he likes, but he won't find anything to substitute for American power there. Most European armies are much weaker than ours. The French may be on a par with us roughly, but everyone else is pretty weak. And
here's another thing nobody's talking about, because Europe went all in on green energy. The second there's a little fluctuation in oil prices, their economies basically shut down. If anything, they should be fully vested in backing the United States as we go about this campaign with the Gulf allies and with Israel and getting rid of this Iranian regime, but they won't.
So yeah, all he's doing is reinforcing failure by cozying up to the EU. He should be doing everything he can to rebuild the relationship that he has helped trash with the United States and with President Trump.
This comes down to something else, loyalty. Many people believe that when Donald Trump was asking for help from NATO, but specifically from the United Kingdom, that help did not come.
Nope.
We know that Donald Trump is a man who does not forget a grudge in a hurry. Could this come back to bite Sir Keir Starmer on the backside?
Look, it's not a grudge. If someone's not going to help you when you need their help, it makes logical sense that the next time you need their help, they're going to say no too. How is this so hard for people to understand?
The countries of the world that do receive oil through the Hormuz Strait must take care of that passage. They must cherish it. They must grab it and cherish it. They can do it easily.
Yeah.
We will be helpful, but they should take the lead in protecting the oil that they so desperately depend on. So to those countries that can't get fuel, many of which refuse to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, we had to do it ourselves. I have a suggestion. Number one, buy oil from the United States of America.
Yeah, they refuse, man.
So much. And number two, build up some delayed courage. Should have done it before. Should have done it with us, as we asked. Go to the strait and just take it, protect it, use it for yourselves. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done, so it should be easy.
You want the strait open? Do it yourselves. So
Meanwhile,
what does this mean?
Blaming us.
Well, there are many levels on which you could analyze this. The first is the literal.
That's what people want to know.
So we have enough oil. We don't need the oil there. If you need the oil, you do it. To which a lot of people have noted, well, actually, oil is priced on the international market, and unless you shut down American oil exports and in some basic sense nationalize the oil companies, control them, use the government to control who they can sell to, then what happens in the Strait affects us here in gas prices and oil prices because we don't control those.
Prices, yes. Supply, no. Doesn't affect supply, which is a problem. Australia's got a big supply problem right now. There are many countries that have massive supply problems, so the price is one thing. But just before we continue, you already know why people are moving to crypto. But there's a problem. Most crypto wallets plug into the same system everyone's running from in the first place. And that's why Rumble built Rumble Wallet. It's a self-custodial wallet that actually lives inside an ecosystem that defends free speech and financial freedom. No bank holding your balance, not even Rumble itself can touch your funds. We're talking your money, your keys, your terms. If you're already using Bitcoin and stablecoins, Rumble Wallet gives you even more power. There's direct, fast tipping support for creators right on Rumble, without the creators having to wait weeks or even months for random payouts. Plus, it offers on-chain payments in Bitcoin, Tether Gold, and USAT, so you can move globally without having to ask anyone for permission. And while most wallets stop at storage, Rumble Wallet connects your money with a marketplace marketplace of ideas that will never cave to censorship. So if you're serious about sovereignty, both financial and digital, this is where to level up. Check out right here, wallet.rumble.com, or search Rumble Wallet in your app store of choice. Download it, back up your recovery phrase, and keep your money where it belongs. In your hands, Rumble Wallet is a technology provider only and not a custodial service. See the full terms at wallet.rumble.com. Now, let's get back to the video.
If it's so important to you, you do it.
Right, they should
so
just do it.
Who's he talking to exactly?
NATO.
Well, this administration and previous administrations have expressed increasing, accelerating hostility toward Europe. And of course, Europe is ever more dependent on Gulf oil and particularly Gulf gas, natural gas. And so Europe, you do it. And we asked our European allies to get in at the very beginning. And we're going to leave NATO because they're not backing us up in Iran. It's not really a real conversation. Our European allies don't really have militaries. And they don't have militaries because their countries have been occupied to one degree or another by the U.S. military since 1945 at the end of the Second World War.
And they can't afford it.
So they've had not just a defense guarantee through NATO, they've had an actual physical defense. Against whom? Russia, for a lot of the time. And so they don't have the capacity to open the strait by force. And of course, no one really does have that capacity.
Okay, that's conjecture. They do have militaries. The United Kingdom has aircraft carriers. These folks have just said they don't want to get involved. France was sending an aircraft carrier. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know if it got lost out there in the Pacific somewhere. But what these guys don't want to do, these same countries that sent their own troops to Greenland as a show of force to stop a Trump invasion and then called them all back after the Germans and the French couldn't get along, these are the countries that have militaries, have money, and they just don't want to spend it. They don't want to do anything about it. They want to see America's president fail. And that's the real problem with this whole arrangement, isn't it?
The national security advisor during President Trump's first term, also vice president of national security for the Heritage Foundation. Great to see you today. I want to start with oil and how jarring it must be for people around the world, nations, friend or foe, to hear the president of the United States say, yeah, you know, we don't really need the Strait of Hormuz the way you do. In fact, we have a lot of oil. We could sell it to you.
Wow. Tables have turned.
No, it's an absolute strategic reset, Harris. And this changes our approach to energy markets that has been in place since 1980, since President Carter laid out his doctrine that the United States would ensure the free flow of energy out of the Gulf because we were dependent on that energy. We're not anymore. And yes, we're part of a global market, but that's not our supply we have to worry about. That's a supply that China should be worrying about.
Exactly. If you can't get the oil, the price doesn't matter.
India needs to worry about, and Europe needs to worry about. So I think they're on notice that the United States will help, and hopefully the Iranian regime will accept the president's terms and open up the strait. But if they don't, there's going to be a burden on other parts of the world to resolve this situation.
Look, we just saw a hit on a British property, and I'm wondering if the Prime Minister Starmer, who's been wishy-washy throughout this whole thing pretty much, is getting the message of what you just said about the president's plans with regard to the strait.
I don't think he is.
I think there's a lot of panic in European capitals today, Harris, primarily in Brussels. And the message they're sending to their citizens is you need to cover, shelter in place, essentially. Stop driving so much. Stop flying so much. Don't heat your houses. Conserve energy. They're essentially imposing the energy restrictions. Exactly. It's in Politico Europe, so I'm not making it up. But this is their attempt to impose their radical climate agenda because of the conflict in Iran, which is ridiculous. And
that's so fascinating. So they've got this massive problem in their economies because the price of oil changed. Their ability to get it is non-existent. And what are they doing? They're going even harder on these green mandates, these planet mandates on their own citizens. They're just crushing their way of life because they don't want to help President Trump.
Should have done it before. Should have done it with us, as we asked.
We'll see if they do it. Courage. Wow. The Wall Street Journal editorial board says a NATO exit would be, quote unquote, the height of folly and help Moscow, Tehran, and Beijing. What's your reaction to that?
I don't think so.
I think I take a little bit of a different view, Harris. I think this is a long overdue reassessment of NATO, which is now 80 years old. Is it performing the function it needs to? And I think the United States is in a shooting war. President Trump probably doesn't have a great deal of time to hold their hands and help them through this, but there are going to be some tough conversations down the road. Right now, we need to focus on capable allies. Israel, first and foremost, the UAE, both of whom are performing exemplarily well, have incredible capabilities that can help us.
And they are helping us. They're on our side. They want to work with us. So you can't be allied with the entire world at once, but we've got these allies in the Gulf along with Israel, and they're playing ball. They want to see what we want to see. We have shared objectives. Then we have our friends in Europe who say they don't have a shared objective with us, which they probably should, but it seems like they don't. And whether Trump leaves NATO or stays in NATO, it's revealed to be not the greatest arrangement at all, really, for anybody.
The job in Iran. He's also considering withdrawal from NATO, even though he wouldn't be able to do it without 2/3 vote from the Senate. After member countries refused to join against Iran, the president said, quote, "Absolutely, without question, wouldn't you do that if you were me?" when asked if he would pull out. Let's bring in Michael Allen, former National Security Council Senior Director under President George W. Bush. So between their reaction to the Greenland, which, by the way, we're expanding bases, and between them not letting us use their bases, Italy flat out said no, Spain says no, and they put limitations on the UK. Can you blame the president for feeling that way?
I can't blame the president for feeling that way. If simply put, it's outrageous. It's one thing for the Europeans to say, hey, listen, you didn't consult us enough before the military action, so we're not going to get involved kinetically. But it's quite another to say, listen, we're not even going to let you use our bases, use your bases on our territory. I mean, that's what they're for, after all. I know. So I think it's a huge foul which we pay by the Europeans, and I hope they step up in some way on Hormuz, or I think this will be a big issue going forward.
For two issues. You got the uranium, and there's a mission in place the president requested for an operation. He's looking at it now. And then you have the opening up the Strait of Hormuz. Here's what he said about the Strait.
It sure is.
Take the lead in protecting the oil that they so desperately depend on.
But it is a global commodity, right, Mike?
Yeah, it sure is. Somebody had a good line the other day. A restriction in supply anywhere means the price goes up everywhere. So it's something that we have to contend with and worry about. I'm glad that we might be on the verge of getting the Europeans and others involved somewhat, but I thought the president appropriately left open, because he said we'd be at it another 2 to 3 weeks, us playing a role, if not a leading role, in reopening of the strait. That's the most important thing here. This has been
Look, the United States is going to have a military presence of some kind in this region after this conflict ends to make sure that things stay stable and that some aggressor like China or Russia doesn't come in behind the scenes and mess everything up. There's going to have to be a military presence, especially if U.S. troops end up taking that Karg Island, that oil island that the president said he's deliberately not going to wipe out. Said he doesn't want to wipe out Iran's oil infrastructure because the goal of that infrastructure is to help their economy rebuild. So we're going to be around. We're going to be there to help, as the president says, which is a good thing for Europe if they want to help too.
Success by the president, but strategically, if at the end of the day the Iranians can dictate who goes through the Strait of Hormuz, that's not going to be a great outcome. So
that's not going to be the outcome.
We need to make sure that we've got control, or this needs to be opened again as an international passageway.
They have to understand too, when the president does this, he's working the refs.
Look, the president's already said the strait is pretty much safe. Like, the idea that these countries say, oh, it's too dangerous. I mean, they're making excuses to try and make it look like America's losing a war. They're on the propaganda side of the regime because they want to see President Trump fail. They don't like what he's doing. And they could be there right now if they wanted to. Watch this.
Because there's no reason for us to do this. Look, problem with the strait, a guy can take a mine, drop it in the water, and say, oh, it's unsafe. It's not like you're taking out an army or you're taking out a country or you can drop it. Or you can take a machine gun from the shore and shoot a few bullets at a ship. Or maybe an over-the-shoulder missile, small missiles. That's not for us. That'll be for France. That'll be for whoever's using the strait.
I don't know. To me, the only explanation for why we don't have a coalition that involves Europe and just involves the U.S. and our Arab allies in Israel is because they don't want to help. They're angry. They're between a rock and a hard place, so to speak. They don't want to see the United States get a win here under President Trump. They want to see the status quo. They were perfectly happy with this regime existing. They didn't want to see this regime get taken down a notch. For some reason, they felt like a more powerful Iran was a good thing for the world. I don't think so. What do you think? I'll see you in the next video.